in Britain, another foreign criminal has been released by mistake. I never thought I would say that sentence, and allow us to refresh our memory about the first one, because it wasn't that long ago, and I just want to bring this up to highlight just how absurd the situation is now that it has happened again. So this guy, what is his name? Hadush Kibatu, had been in the country 8 days after arriving on a small boat before he tried to kiss a 14-year-old girl. He also, this is from the time when he got sentenced, only got 12 months in prison for this for some reason, whereas people in Epping who were charged with violent disorder but despite not actually attacking anyone, just some light property damage, got about 2 years each. Interesting, isn't it, that these people who didn't actually harm an individual get 2 years in prison, whereas the boat migrant who arrived and tried to kiss a 14-year-old girl gets 12 months. It seems like an inversion of justice, in my opinion. So he was mistakenly released from prison, and a major manhunt was declared. And the funniest thing about this, and something that people didn't pick up on, which I'm glad someone at least noticed, was that he has a very low mental age, he couldn't speak English, and he probably didn't even understand that there was a manhunt going on.
I did consider that fact. Yeah.
Qualified to be foreign secretary then.
He is, yeah. Also, he specifically wanted, like, Kibatu's lawyer said he wanted to be deported after serving his time in prison. The man who wanted to be deported was accidentally released back into the population. It's just like, oh, well, it's like the brass eye thing of this is the one thing we didn't want to happen. Although, maybe the state probably did a little bit. So he was seen wandering about. Here he was in I believe it was Dalston Square Library in Hackney, just sort of milling around. Also, apparently, after he left the prison, he was sort of just milling around outside of the prison, and then he asked a delivery driver, what should I do? He told me he had been deported. Prison staff were saying he had to go on a train to get to the destination. And so the delivery driver instructed him where to go to get the train, because he was hanging around outside the prison for an hour and a half, just not knowing what to do. And he was seen walking around the street in his full prison garb with a plastic bag of his possessions.
Well, part of the problem with that, of course, is that we've got to the point now where prison garb basically looks like everyday attire in Britain.
It does.
Someone could wear that and you're like, oh, he's just out for a stroll.
To be fair, I do automatically assume that people in tracksuits belong in prison, so it's nothing to me. Hey, I'm not losing the snot allegations anytime soon. And then he boarded a train to London, which these are a little bit out of order, because he then was seen in the library. Here he was. Also interesting, he managed to acquire an avocado tote bag, very stylish. He lost his plastic bag of possessions and then somehow managed to find his way to other things, still wearing his prison tracksuit though. And it was sort of like, I saw it compared to Mr. Bean style antics, where the police and the authorities were after him, and through no cunning and wile of his own, he's just outwitting them, constantly outmaneuvering them, even though there was a national manhunt.
Without even trying.
And this is a man with the mind of a child, doesn't speak the native language, and wants to be deported.
There's a film in this, isn't there?
There is.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. So, here's the library one again, and then they finally detained him, thanks to information received from the public. I'm amazed they actually followed up on it, to be honest. And he also got paid £500 before they sent him on his way, which this is a quote from his victim. He got paid £500 when I got home. I just cried because I felt like he got paid for what he had done to me. Were the words of the 14-year-old victim that he sexually assaulted. Just horrifying.
£500 is around a year's salary in Ethiopia, by the way.
Mm-hmm. So he got given a year's salary to be a sex offender
Yes.
and got sent home packing after having a little adventure around England for a couple of weeks. Like, this is absurd, an absurd incentive to place on people doing this sort of thing. It's like, come here, commit awful crimes, and we'll pay you to go away. The Danegeld didn't work. Hate to break it to you. Yes, they announced that they deported him overnight. This is Border Security Minister saying it on LBC. So interesting that they can do that when he causes an embarrassment to the political system, isn't it? Immediately they can get shot of him. And of course, the absurdity of this was memed. There's been a walking tour pub crawl of his route created, 14 stops there, as well as this one that I liked particularly.
With 500 quid in his pocket, he could probably have 2 pints on that crawl as well.
He probably could, yeah. Connolly Druckber released this in time for Halloween, so I hope at least some of you dressed up as him for Halloween. It'd be very scary to see someone dressed like this on the street, I know that much. But the unfortunate thing is that Lammy is the one that's responsible for preventing this from happening again. And he announced that checks are to be enhanced because, this is a terrible mistake and it's not a symptom of a failing political system. It's just a clerical error or something.
A blip.
It was, yes. But he's got these really, really strong checks in place and it will never happen again. And it is definitely not going to happen. But may I remind everyone who David Lammy is? This man who thinks that Henry VII succeeded Henry VIII, that Marie Antoinette won a Nobel Prize, and Red Leicester is a blue cheese. And
This is one of the most insane clips I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
If you were to try to write that into a comedy show, nobody would believe you.
He didn't get a single question right, did he? Not one.
he got
Couple
eight
sports
in
ones.
he got eight in his specialist subject, which is Muhammad Ali.
Right. Okay. I hadn't seen that bit.
Another foreigner.
Yeah.
But if you wrote into something like that, not only that he got all of this wrong, but that he proceeded afterwards to become Foreign Secretary and then Justice Secretary
And then Deputy Prime Minister.
and Deputy Prime Minister, nobody would believe you.
In fairness to Lammy, though, not that there's any reason we should be fair, but this could have happened under any justice minister because of how decrepit the institutions are. And this is part of a 3-decade-long trend towards privatization of the prison system. And every function that should be a ring-fenced function of the state, i.e. the state deciding who can be released onto our streets. You would once at one time have a uniformed prison governor, but you don't have that now. You have managing directors in suits and all kinds of Serco officials, and lots of the different probation functions have been farmed out. These are things that should inherently be part of the justice system. The courts and the prison system should all be under the same roof with the same level of military level accountability, where if something goes on like this, then in order for it to have happened, it would have had to have been signed off by a uniformed prison governor. And they would, in that instance, expect to lose their pension and be turfed out. And that's the accountability that's been missing. But with the modern Serco state, things like this happen. The people responsible still take 200 grand a year away and a nice cushy pension. We've deleted any kind of accountability. If you haven't yet had Ian Aitchison on, he's the prisons guy that Reform are listening to, and certainly Genric's listening to him, and he said, very recently he said one of the key changes you could make is to put the prison bosses back in uniform so that they're part of the system, they are part of the command structure, they're wearing the uniform, they're proud of it, and it actually means something. But if you're stood there in a short shirt and combat casuals with your Serco name badge as a mid-ranking functionary, you don't feel that same sense of belonging and pride and belief that what you do is part of society and means something. It's actually it's just a job. And once you made it just a job, you downgraded it, and these are dangerous jobs. You're dealing with dangerous people. You're going to work. You're put at risk for mediocre pay. Nobody wants to do that, and guess what? You're increasingly looking for overseas immigrants to act as prison guards, and this is a total distortion of the system. Because it should be us, British people, guarding the prisoners, deciding who can go back. So we need to basically scrub the prison system, start from scratch, and rebuild it along the lines of where it was.
Because of all the things to be privatised and run like a business, I'm in favour of that for things like healthcare. I hate the NHS and want it destroyed. But for prisons, that's one of the areas where I'm just like, obviously this should be in the hands of the state. And the only sense it should be run like a business is in the sense that maybe the prisoners should be made to do work as part of their imprisonment, to at least pay for their own upkeep or something like that. But the state should be doing it, not a private company.
Because there was a quasi-military structure to the prison service, it had its own military discipline, and as a result was able to impose that discipline on prisoners. And so the uniform in itself was an authority. So you didn't have to be a strong, bulky man. You just had to walk on the wing in that uniform. And the subtext of that uniform is, if you try, you die. Your life will be, if you so much as put a finger on anyone wearing that uniform, your life is miserable for the rest of your stay. And that is how you impose discipline on the wing. That is how you cultivate good behaviour. And as soon as we lost that uniform, we lost the authority. And as I say, any uniform is just a work suit unless it's got the crown emblem, because that emblem means something. And the moment we take away that, they lose their authority of the crown and the state.
I very much agree.
It's the HRification of everything. It's the commercialization of everything. It's the idea that the state is by definition incompetent and the private sector is by definition better. And that the state doesn't have particular responsibilities of service and duty and honor, most importantly. And if you honor a uniform, the honor of the uniform demands that transgressions be punished properly.
Well, the same applies to the police, as you've seen them becoming more slovenly, wearing paramilitary gear and bright yellow vests, and people used to mock that dome hat, but you took it seriously because it meant something. It was a long period of tradition of the police's own authority wrapped up in that tradition. And so as soon as you civilianize that force and how it appears, it loses its inherent authority. So not only are you losing discipline in the prisons, you're losing it on the streets as well.
So returning to the topic of incompetence and David Lammy, may I remind everyone of his perception abilities, his ability to spot things. Oh, there's a mouse.
We haven't seen a police while I've been here, and I've been here for a little while now. People are frightened. And what?
So, who thinks that his solution is going to solve the problem? Obviously it's not. And of course it's all talk, and even if he had the best will in the world and was as competent as could be, the system is so broken that he couldn't do it anyway, so there's no point even claiming that he could. And so this has resulted in this. Wandsworth Prison manhunt latest. Prisoner found 3 days after accidental release, but another on the loose. So that's talking about the Kabatu guy. So the 24-year-old Algerian national was released in error on October 29th, just days after sex offender migrant Hadush Kabatu was wrongly freed from H&P Chelmsford. A Met Police spokesperson said shortly after 1 p.m. on Tuesday the 4th of November, interesting, that difference of dates there. So he was released in error on the 29th of October, and then the police were notified on the 4th of November. 5 days later, 5-6 days later, right? The Met was informed by the prison service that a prisoner had been released in error, And the BBC has also reported that he's not an asylum seeker this time. So GB News reporting says the prisoner was serving time for trespassing with the intent to steal, so they've released a thief. And he is also believed to have previously committed sexual offences. Oh, great, so another sex offender.
Of course.
Released accidentally. Just keeps on happening.
Just want to make a point about Algerians.
Okay.
Algerian football fans are the only ones I know of in the Middle East who chant regularly, "We are your sons, Bin Laden."
What exactly does that mean?
That we are the heirs of Bin Laden and we
Okay.
want to do what he did.
They particularly
Or did he go to
bitter-
football matches?
That's not the message there.
Oh, I see.
That's not exactly the message there.
No.
They particularly bitter for French colonialism? Is that why they're...
No,
so
they're just
hardline?
bitter. Like the Moroccans and the Libyans think that the Algerians are absolutely nuts.
No,
And
right.
they know because they live next door. The Tunisians hate everybody around them because they're the most civilized people in North Africa. But
have
they
met a
are
few.
also the ones who sent the most per capita people to fight for Islamic State. So there's that other dynamic.
Clear out
So-
the riffraff.
Yes. So the level of understanding that people have when they advocate for these societies is non-existent. They don't understand these societies. They don't understand how these communities work, what they think, what the average person of theirs thinks. And you see this endless talk about, oh, his rights, his rights. Guys, you have no idea what you're talking about.
We don't need rights for criminals. You surrender your rights as soon as you have committed a crime, especially if you're from abroad, then you have absolutely no claim to even regaining them in the first place. So this is what the guy looks like. He's called Brahim Kadour Sharif, I think. And apparently he's got links to Tower Hamlets. What a turn of events. I mean,
Of course.
colour me shocked. And also is known to frequent the Westminster area. He might be in a Labour, might be working for a Labour MP, I imagine. And the thing is, there's also another one on top of this. It wasn't just...
So 3.
It's actually 3, yeah. So they're appealing to help find 35-year-old William Smith, not a foreign person this time. Goes by the name Billy, that's what he looks like. If you see him, obviously contact the police. But he is known for fraud offences and not sexual assault.
Well, that's nice.
I mean, so he's just going to defraud you rather than sexually assault you. Wonderful. And the unfortunate thing is that all of this was going on whilst David Lammy was in Prime Minister's questions, answering the questions, when he proudly proclaimed that I am the first black man to answer Prime Minister's questions, as if, who cares? But whilst he was the first black man in Prime Minister's questions, he failed to answer 5 times whether no other asylum-seeking offender had accidentally been released from prison, and he just ignored it. And in fact, he said he's looking forward to being up against Robert Jenrick next week, suggesting that he's being given a hard time. So I'm going to play this a little bit.
Speaker, the public are extremely concerned about what happened in the Kabatu case. They want to know there won't be a repeat. So I'm putting to him a very clear question about his responsibilities. I repeat, can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? Can he answer the question?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward to being up against the member for Newark next time. In 25 years in this House, I've not witnessed a more shameful spectacle, frankly, than what the party opposite left in our justice system. Their criminal negligence on his watch as a former Justice Minister.
So he's not actually wrong there, that the Tories did do a terrible job. However, he still didn't answer the question for 5 times, and in fact 2 people had been released. He probably knew about it at this point as the person in government ultimately responsible for it, and if it reached the press, it's probably reached his desk, and that's probably why he refused to answer it 5 times in a row. And it's interesting as a lack of transparency, but as we've addressed today, There are so many problems here to fix this sort of thing, and it is truly an absurdity that could be made into some sort of comedy film, that we just keep on releasing sex offenders into the general population by mistake, and that even if we do catch someone for a crime and prosecute them and send them to prison, which is quite unlikely these days, they run the risk of just being released.
You have to remember that
And given £500.
only 5%, I think, of total violent crime ends in some kind of prosecution or something like that.
Exactly.
So the level of broken capacity is beyond anybody's imagination. And it is therefore reasonable to expect that if they can't actually catch anyone, there's a good chance that they can't actually keep anyone. The whole policing system is on its knees, and it's very obvious that they're losing control. They have lost control, rather.
Mm-hmm. We don't really have a justice system anymore.
Then you get into the question of why haven't there been extra prisons built? And then you bump into all the planning and the natural NIMBY tendency. So there hasn't been any that I know of. I don't think there's been any serious attempt to expand the prison estate. But if they did, we'd have the same story that we've got with every other important piece of infrastructure, where we spend billions on consultation to end up with nothing. Yet you look at what was achieved in a very short time at Camp Bastion. Give it to the MOD to do, because if there's one thing they can do quite quickly and cost effectively is temporary structures surrounded by a militarized perimeter. This is the one thing that they're good at. So give the job to them, because you look at Full Sutton in North Yorkshire, and there's a prison in Wakefield. They're built on old RAF bases, and there's plenty of room for expansion. So, the most dangerous ones have to go inside the walls, but you could, if there were the political will, you could provide that extra capacity in under 6 months. But again, there are answers. Any single problem you look at right now, there are interim solutions and there are long-term solutions, but the political will is simply not there. And then you've got the other part of it. Everybody's tuning in for this Punch and Judy PMQ nonsense, but the real business of holding the system to account is in select committee meetings, and they've died a death. When was the last time you tuned in to watch a select committee meeting? I think probably the last major one was around the time of Brexit. The trade committee meetings, there was a lot of public attention on that, but the daily grind of politics happens in the back rooms. You can't get the people to take an interest in it, and you can't get MPs to take an interest in it. And so this is one of the things that I keep hearing on the right. Oh, we're going to abolish all these quangos because of this and that reason. It's like, well, we could solve that tomorrow, because parliamentary select committees have the power to drag people in, grill them, embarrass them, even recommend to the minister that these people are fired. But who's actually doing this?
Hardly anyone. So yes, the UK is in a very absurd state, and there is a lot to be done, but it can be done with the right political will. If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.